After 6 months of hearings throughout the state, including one in Brainerd, local representatives wrote up a list of legislative actions to further control the sale and consumption of synthetic drugs. Tonight, our Hannah Tran has more on the recommendations that address the loopholes made by manufacturers of synthetic drugs.
Synthetic marijuana. It's always been a challenge for Andy Gallus.
It's kind of uncharted territory for law enforcement, especially in rural Minnesota.
A street name for it, spice.
It's basically potpourri that's been sprayed down with these chemical substances.
For the last 6 months, hearings have been organized across the state to address the relatively new issue of synthetic drug abuse.
We heard and saw at all of the hearings was a devastation.
Local leaders now have recommendations for the state to combat synthetic drug use. Legislation has been made to make these substances illegal in the past, but
the manufacturers will be 3 or 4 steps ahead of the laws and just changing the chemical composition.
Changing the organic chemistry of it.
Manufacturers find legal loopholes by tweaking its chemical composition, but they also have another strategy.
People that are making this and marketing it as not for human consumption, and so then the FDA doesn't have to get involved.
The main focus of these recommendations is to clarify and expand the definition of what constitutes as a drug in statute.
We also recommend that the legislature look at changing the definition of a drug.
There's a recent controversial law in the state of Indiana called the look-alike law. It makes it illegal to sell or possess any products that simply look like a banned substance in chemical or physical appearance. Experts call it a new model law for the nation and perhaps maybe for Minnesota as well.
If it looks like amphetamine, it needs to be treated like amphetamine. In Minnesota, also talked about crafting what was called look-alike legislation.
Legislators also want to better train prosecutors with synthetic drug cases and trials.
A significant educational campaign.
When it comes to the problem of synthetic drugs, the case is far from closed. Hannah Tran, Lakeland News.
Another recommendation is to give the Board of Pharmacy more authority to issue cease and desist orders to businesses that sell synthetic drugs. Representative John Ward and the House Select Committee on Controlled Substances and Synthetic Drugs will send recommendations to House Speaker Paul Thiessen for consideration.
If you've enjoyed this segment of Lakeland News, please consider making a tax-deductible contribution to Lakeland Public Television.